Hey, greetings everyone. Welcome to Lines on the Page, episode 69. Nice. Um, sorry, I had to get that out of the way. Um, just going to go ahead and give you guys a little forewarning. I've had maybe about 4 hours worth of sleep, so I am like nursing my coffee, which is right behind me actually. But we're going to be doing something kind of interesting today, which is basically doing watercolor mixed medium. Um, Depending on the time that we're given, it's really going to depend on how far we get into this because when we're dealing with something like watercolor, it does take time for it to dry before you can continue on. Unfortunately, I don't have a hair dryer on me for obvious reasons, or else this would definitely speed up the process. But all that being said, I'm just going to do some quick housekeeping real quick. Haven Comics, it's located at 1871 Slaughter Road, Suite F in Madison, Alabama. And if you'd like to show any of the show we do, please like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell notification, the whole nine. Um, just lets us know that people are interested and they like what we do. And if you want to know where you can find me on social media, you can just go through my link tree or you can just type in at tpriceartworks and voila, here I am. So, all that being said, uh, today we're going to be doing Dark Phoenix, and I wanted to do a few things just to let you know that it is a little bit of a process whenever I'm having to do mixed medium stuff. I don't do large pieces when I do this. It's usually about 6 by 9. Really been on a Arches hot press kick as of late. As you can tell, I did say 6 by 9. It does say 6 by 10. Basically, I just measure it out and cut it. But really been enjoying this stuff. And if you don't have money in the budget for hot press, cold press works just as well, and it is cheaper. Um, and in fact, I had no idea that there was a difference between the two until someone's just like, "Hey, man, you should have gone hot press." Um, Cold press does have like this tooth paper. Hot press tends to be a lot slicker, which is great because, especially since I like inking everything after every possible color is on this. It just goes by a lot smoother, and I'm not having to fight the paper. But before I talk about how I got to this, yesterday was basically just doing some thumbnails of some stuff. So I did Wolverine, Dark Phoenix, and Spawn, and I was just kind of blanking on the fourth thing. I'm just like, oh yeah, I haven't done Dark Phoenix in a long time. So basically, took out that 2 minute sketch and applied it here. And as you can obviously tell, if you don't have like yellow color blindness, there is some very faint yellow orange kind of wash that I've got going on in the background because we're going to be building up some values to it. Um, but one of the things that I do very different when it comes to starting off with painting is that with a lot of artists, we tend to do pencils, then inks, then colors. The problem I've had, and you may too, I don't know, everyone's situation is different, but I've normally had problems with the ink accidentally getting reactivated through uh, markers and sometimes with watercolors, and that causes stuff to smear. Not a fan. So I do things kind of in reverse. So I do pencils. I try to get it as tight as possible to the idea that I want. Then I do colors, and then afterwards I finish it off with inks, and so the ink will kind of pop out on the page just a tad more. But like I said, everyone's process is different. Doesn't mean that one is more correct than the other. As long as you're having fun, that's really what matters. Yeah. So, um, one of the other things I like doing when doing watercolors is have a swatch. And basically, it just kind of gives me an idea of every single color, how it's going to look on the paper, from the lightest to the most saturated. Sometimes I have to blend colors to get another color. And while I did say mixed medium, the one color I always have trouble with is red. I don't know why. It just doesn't come out as vibrant as I wanted to. These are Winsor Newton. Well, wow, I can't speak. Winsor Newton watercolors, but I'm sure there's like a more saturated version of red between these two. So what I do is either use like a purple and then a red on top, and that kind of brings it out, or I use Copics. So in this case, I either have a cadmium red or a strong red. Not sure if you see that there. Unfortunately, I do have the cam up just a bit, and I do apologize for that. It's just a lot easier for me to do it this way. But I don't really use any fancy brushes. They're just synthetics. No fancy cup. It's just your typical plastic cup. Fill in with some room temperature water, not that high up. And really only going to be using two brushes. I like using this one for more just kind of getting all this out of the way. And this is around 8 watercolor brush. And so far it's done its thing. I enjoy it. But yeah, that is basically that. I'm going to lay this down here so I can move stuff out of the way. Just that. Get everything down to it. So, hope everyone had a good week. And do this real quick. Yeah. Hope everyone had a good week or weekends. Uh, Everything for me as of late has been all right. Zero complaints so far, with the exception of the fact of did not really get the chance to sleep all that well. Really not even sure what caused all of that, for being perfectly honest. Yeah. Didn't have, you know, any caffeine outside of the one cup of coffee that I had yesterday morning. Never a clue how that happened. Didn't have any soft drinks. Wasn't anxious or anything. So yeah, it's whole situation's a bit strange. But did give me the opportunity to pull open a book and read. So zero complaints about that. So I'll brush this just real quick. So I'm intentionally putting down uh, this layer of cadmium orange, uh, which, if you're not using Winsor Newton, you're using like some other company, that's totally fine. But basically, it's a very light orange, yellow orange sort of thing. does the same trick, but basically just trying to lay down some values. And if you don't know what values are, it's basically um, light and darkness working together in tandem. At least that's the more layman's term definition of it. But we're using color as our main source of light and darkness. And this has really kind of been more of a therapeutic exercise for me uh, because I normally work strictly in black and white. So to do this, really, and I arguably can say, unfortunately, having to use my brain just a bit more. Um, I don't know, maybe it's more fortunate, but it's when you train uh, your eyes to interpret stuff, a tad different as far as just training it to think in strictly black and white. Uh, because as far as just like interior work is concerned, I'm really only using those two and trying to create depth and shadow uh, with using just black and white. So to do this, uh, it's definitely interesting. But I typically like to start off with watercolors with the most lightest shade possible, and then just build up more and more of a specific color to create that value, to create some sort of depth. I think I can go back to around 8. So yeah, um, it's basically rereading a book that was basically an interview between Frank Miller and Will Eisner. Forgot exactly what it's called. I know that the book itself came out probably about a year or two after Eisner had passed. It was put out by Dark Horse Comics. Um, but uh, like that, it's definitely easier to watch than it is to read because it gets a little weird as far as just like they put in the annotation of like the laugh or the chuckle or whatever. So it's almost like reading a screenplay. But uh, there was definitely something talked about, which is something I've been I used to follow as far as a rule is concerned. Um, and it's something that Frank Miller uses whenever he was having to do covers on the often, uh, and that was basically the postage effects, or the stamp effect. And the stamp effect is basically, um, if you can draw something very tiny, which is no different than, think of it like, um, what we consider today as thumbnailing. But if you can think about how it's going to look at such a tiny, um, size, then whatever it is that you're doing at comic book size is going to look good. And it does make sense because like some of the iconic covers that he's done, they're very simplistic. Case in point, um, uh, the Dark Knight Returns cover where it's a silhouette of Batman jumping in the sky and there's lightning happening behind him, so he's like completely blacked out, but super iconic, and it looks good in postage size just as much as it looks good, uh, completely blown up. And I think at some point I just kind of lax on that whole experience. That is not too saturated, but we're going to lean into it. So yeah, it's really nice to just reread that, and also some of Will Eisner's last several thoughts about uh, state of comics at the time before he passed, and it was just really nice to sit and read it and think about some stuff just a little bit. So, uh, outside of all that, if you have not read my Substack, which is basically a free newsletter of sorts, um, talked about Free Comic Book Day around what was it, May 2nd? Yeah, great time here at Haven. It was basically a packed house, just revolving door of people for hours. And if you missed out, well, you missed out, but we still do have a lot of stuff left over, despite the fact that, it was a packed house for hours. People were getting free comics, people were, uh, you know, buying comics for their collection, so on and so forth. But it's definitely a lot. I know in the last 2 weeks, we've had more people come in inquiring about the Dungeon Crawler Carl Free Comic Day comic. I think we still have like a stack left, which apparently the graphic novel for it is releasing on Wednesdays. So we do have several copies of that, and we have ordered several more. I have a feeling that it's going to be selling out pretty quick. Josh thinks so too. So, um, if you're interested in that, definitely swing by the store next Wednesday. Earlier, the better. So, what I'm doing right now is thinking about these last orange hues I'm going to be putting down before I start uh, moving to red. Uh, Never seen the classic suit uh, of Dark Phoenix. Basically, uh, the chest piece, the sash, um, the gloves, and the boots are all gold. And that's going to be kind of interesting. So I'm thinking about augmenting, I guess, what would be considered a darker shadow or highlight or whatever on this. I'm trying to do that, I guess, dispersing itself in cosmic flame. There's probably going to be a little bit of either like I don't know, either very light purple or maybe a crimson, kind of red. Something to create a darker shadow. It's way too saturated. So there's actually a small story in regards to why I've been drawing Phoenix, or in this case, Dark Phoenix, with a more Phoenix looking face. I want to say this was probably around 2022, 2023, and I was doing a sketch cover and I just had this idea because too many times you will see um, people or comic artists, I should say, drawing Phoenix and like the hair's on fire like Starfire. But the Phoenix Force in and of itself, you only see like the full Phoenix Force. And if she's, flying or whatever, you don't really see her being consumed by the Phoenix Force and uh, that kind of weird symbiotic thing going on. I mean, you see it all the time with Venom, as far as like Eddie Brock um, getting melded into it, or Flash Thompson, whichever you know version of Venom, or unfortunately in this case Mary Jane. Man, that was a choice. Uh, so, um, but the thing is that like the Phoenix Force is technically a cosmic entity that is symbiotic and kind of parasitic because it consumes a person. So it was just one of these ideas. I'm just like, it kind of makes sense. So I started doing it, and I've not been changing that idea ever since. And also that era of X-Men, which is just prime Claremont, and I think it was Dave Cockrum that was drawing during that era. Don't think it was John Byrne. I think it might be Dave Cockrum. But yeah, that era, primo, good storytelling. Right. We're doing really good on time as far as just so far everything that I've done. with literally just one color. Well, two. There was that really thin layer of yellow that I put down before all this orange. But is the fun of it all. I hate the fact that I've literally just kind of turned into Bob Ross at this point. Right, so you probably noticed that left a slight area that just really hasn't been affected with paint yet. Uh, the sash is actually continuing right here. Excuse me. The sash is going to be continuing right here. So when I have to really get down to it as far as extra value, but I'm going to add a little bit here before we start moving into the reds. Right. So now we're going to be focusing on this. Put this right here. Just a bit more. Back here. Okay. Right. Onto the reds. So, in this case, we're going to be starting off pretty light with cadmium red as far as the watercolors. And the reason being is that I'm probably more likely I'm going to be augmenting this with one of the topics. So as you can see, that area that we have left in as far as just the light source, it's now kind of being popped out just a little bit. Right. That's settled just a little bit. So we are going to be uh, probably do sorts. Well, sip of coffee. All right. Trying to think of the best color combination that could work with. Actually, I think with the gold, I'm going to throw in a light amount of this ochre yellow right here. That looks great. Exactly what I was hoping for. Wait, and let's see. I'm try to do art piano. See how that works. And we definitely need to go back and try to darken up some of the flame just a bit. To that orange one more time. I'm actually going to try using the copy. There it is. So yeah, we're going to start with this cadmium red right here. Sure, it's still. Now, there's a reason why this is not been painted because it's actually going to get blacked out when I start inking. So not exactly Kirby Crackle, but I like the effects for what it does. right. Uh, highlight some of the flame just a bit more. Very- Now that I've got this out of the way, go back. Some public view of some sort. So I think try this Indian red real quick and then make my way possibly to this purple. Swear I can never get the right ratio of what I'm looking for. But that's all part of the process. Now, I think the one question that at some point will probably get brought up is the fact of, why not just use markers? Um, or why didn't you just use, this color the entire time? Yada, yada, yada. Some of it is really just boils down to the fact of the need to experiment. And here's the deal: if you were doing this, digitally, which there's nothing wrong with whatsoever, uh, it's more so the fact if you have way too many tools at your disposal, limiting yourself to try to come up with what you have, if that makes any sense. Uh, Very much a less is more kind of aspect to it. There definitely is I don't want to say like an option paralysis, but it kind of is whenever I'm having to do anything in regards to uh, digital colors. So by doing this traditionally, not only am I kind of like locked into the process, but I am also I can't control Z my way out of anything that I'm doing. Uh, and for those that don't know what that means, that basically is just like the undo button. Um, and it's very much like a life philosophy, sort of thing. Um, of just being intentional and trying to make the best out of a situation that you possibly can. Where losing my mind, can't even keep up with a single piece of paper towel. All right, so ain't the fact I'm gonna have to do this, but yet another passive orange. Oh my god. Really want to darken up some areas. Like, oh crap, who was it that did that song? Girls on Fire. Was it Alicia Keys? I don't think it was Beyonce. I think it was Alicia Keys. No, Kings of Leon did Sex on Fire. Yeah, a recent melody of Girls on Fire just kind of got stuck in my head just for a quick moment. Like, ah, crap. That's what I need. An earworm. Honestly wish I had some sort of music playing in the background, but uh, this thing we've been hit with a copyright strike very hard. Uh, don't want to have to deal with that. Which, by the way, I actually did put up a reel in regards to why, whenever I'm working, I normally have on headphones, uh, and that's just, you know, dealing with the hand that I'm dealt with an adult with ADHD, um, which I was diagnosed with this since like fourth grade. So uh, definitely is a trying situation all around. As far as things that doctors don't really prepare, as far as just neurodivergent, you know, in your adulthood, basically. Yeah, I'm wondering if I can make another. Right. So I'm gonna try and zoom in with this. I'm so sorry the fact that I have the camera so far away, but it's really only so many things I can do. But um, plan is after this dries, going to be going over with ink, obviously uh, the microns, brush pens, the typical tools that I use. And I'll be going in with all the black areas. This is obviously going to get blacked out because it just works better. Um, and there is going to be some white acrylic in some areas, but outside of that, the entirety of the coloring process of this is done, and really happy with the results as far as just the using watercolors to try to blend, create different values and shades. So definitely digging that. So so sorry that you guys couldn't see my face the entire time, but focus was coming up on something else. So all that being said, thank you all who just happened to have been stopping in off and on. Um, And for those of you who actually stayed until the very end, thank you. So I'm just going to end off with this. Haven Comics located 1871 Slaughter Road Suite F in Madison, Alabama. And if you like the show, any other show that we do here, just like, subscribe, click the bell icon, the whole nine. For some reason, we've been having issues with trying to cross-platform this on our Facebook page. So those of you who are still watching this on YouTube, thank you very much. Um, and if you want to figure out where you can find me on social media, you can just either type in this little thing into your search engine of choice on social media, or you can just go to my link tree, which is scrolling right underneath here. And that's going to be everything from my social media as well as Substack, which is a free monthly newsletter. But yeah, this will get inked, like I said. I will scan this, post it on social media later this week. And yeah, thank you guys again so much. And I will see you when I see you. Adios.